All right, let's get everybody else up in here for, December 7th already. Time is flying. Okay, I've got the spinning wheels. There's one check mark. There's two. Boom, boom. Good morning. Good morning. It is, like I said, December 7th, 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time, which means it's time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am your host, Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, good friend, co-host, football aficionado, Scott Kennedy. Scott, good morning. Good morning. Get that coffee in there. How are you doing? Wake up.
Good morning. I'm about halfway through my first cup. So with my Broncos for Breakfast mug that you can get up huddleuppod.com. So it's I kind of always say it's the day after that it kind of hits you. And it was a late night with the Broncos on Sunday night. And so Monday morning I'm kind of going on adrenaline and stuff. But Tuesday morning we're gonna have to caffeinate up to get going, and the chat keeps us going too. That's one of the good things is the chat always energizes me. So appreciate y'all being here.
Well, I feel a little bit overlooked here because I was hoping that I would bring some energy for you today. I'm working at 6:30 a.m. right now, and I'm pumped. I'm excited to be here.
You're like your energy in the morning is like my peak, and then when I see you in the evenings do your show, I'm like, holy cow, he's been mainlining coffee all day.
I'm excited. I'm excited to
Nick's
go.
Energetic in the morning. He's hyperactive in the evenings.
Amen. Yeah, no, it's explain this. Teachers sometimes, man, they hurt themselves. When I was a little kid, definitely ADD. I was probably ADD, ADHD before they were medicating kids as much.
Everybody?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but my teacher would take away my recess because I couldn't sit still in my desk. What are we doing? It's like, Nick, you lose your 15 minutes running outside.
Yeah, go run a few laps and come back, buddy. That's what I said. Go do a loop around the school and come back and sit down.
Yep, that's I had a couple of not so great teachers in that regard. It's like, come on. Like, but anyway, you know who's coming on here? Ethan. Good morning to you. First comment of the day. The DWI guys says, "Morning Broncos country." Good morning to you, Ethan. Always great to see you in the AM. We got Clee coming in saying the Patriots passed the ball a total of 3 times in their win last night. I guess you can win running the ball. Yeah. Did you watch? How much of that game did you catch last night?
I watched very, very little of it. I saw the field goal that made it, I think 11-10, but Nick and I were commenting right before we came on because Luke said Saturday night that he thinks Mac Jones is the favorite for Rookie of the Year, and to me that's insane. I'm like, if it's not Jamar Chase, something's wrong. I'm like, that's how important Mac Jones is to this team. You can throw the ball 3 times and win. I mean, he's a guy. He's good, but Jamar Chase is pretty friggin' special. He needs to be the Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a hot take, and some people would really push against that. But I think if you swapped Teddy Bridgewater and Mac Jones right now, the team results would be essentially the same. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is coming off of an absolutely terrible game where I put a vast majority of the blame on this loss on his plate because he did not step up and play well. But they're not asking very much of Mac Jones, and it's very similar to Teddy in the games they win, except actually the Patriots have a top 5 offensive line, have the best defense in football right now.
What I do like, and I said this the other day about Mac Jones, is his ability under pressure. I think he handles that better, which is a big trait to have.
Mm-hmm.
I think he handles the blitz a little bit better. But the record might even actually be better because they wouldn't have gotten off to maybe such a slow start at the beginning of the season. But Mac Jones he could end up being really, really good, but right now he's not the reason they're winning those games, for goodness sake. Come on.
No, yeah. Patriots have built as much of a quarterback independent team as they could this season, and it's working, and it's beautiful to see. Amazing special teams also. I don't think they get enough credit as well. Defense and an offensive line getting it done for them with Mac Jones just steering the boat. EJ coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, EJ. Mo's in the house. Mo, I feel like it's been a second. Hope you're doing well. Remember when the Broncos were a good football team? Pepperidge Farms remembers. Well, we're going to be talking about potentially a good football team here as far as the Broncos' chances to make the playoffs. And, I know they added that 7th seed and everything like that, but
when you lose Dave, you've lost it. Dave's pretty positive. If Dave's mad, I always said, I get it if you don't like me, but if you don't like my wife, something's wrong with you. She's good people. Me, I get it. I get not liking me. So Dave's one of those guys. If you've lost Dave, you've lost it.
Yeah, no, totally. Maybe with Rippon, he says, sure the hell isn't Teddy. Yeah, Teddy had a terrible game, and there's no doubt about that. But if you see Rippon in the game, something's gone wrong. They're gonna ride Teddy out as much as possible, and you can see it. Teddy's injured as heck, but they don't trust Locke. I don't know if Locke trusts Locke right now, and Brett is very limited. If we see him, something went wrong. JJ Johnson saying, "Morning, Nick and Scott, and good morning, Broncos country." Jeremy's in the house. Good to see you, Jeremy. Always awesome for you to join us. Albert's in the house too. Good morning, y'all. Good morning to you, Albert. It's always awesome to see you. Peter, sorry I missed yesterday. Fell asleep so early. Peter, that's okay. We appreciate the heck out of you. I like this one. Nick has that corn-fed energy. That's amazing. We got
coming from Iowa, where they get up at 4 a.m. to do all the farming. Shoot, 6:30 sleeping in for an Iowa kid.
Yeah, honestly, I wake up earlier out here for the hiking than I did there, but that's okay. 3 a.m. You got to beat all the people to the trailhead as the sun's coming up. Blank 916 saying playoffs. Ha 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 ha. With some leprechaun emojis. I can't even tell. There's a chance. Blank. We'll get into it here, but
it's some sort of like stuffed animal, almost like a monkey looking guy with a big smile is what that was.
Okay, almost looks like a sushi roll on my end. We got Shyler coming in here with $10. Thank you so much. I don't recognize this
probably
name.
Skylar.
Skylar. That would make sense. So I have to have Scott here to do my names because I just kind of mush mouth everything. That's what happens when you are in like organic chemistry and stuff. You just like go for it. Like I have no idea what this word is.
I'd never seen it spelled like that until the West Virginia publisher that we worked with at SI. His name was it was spelled almost like that. And I always wanted to call him Schuler, which I'm sure Skylar has been called. It is Skylar. So Skylar, help us out because we don't like messing up people's names, especially when you're up there in yellow. We don't want to mess up your name. So make sure, confirm that for us. We want to get it right.
Absolutely. Well, Skylar comes in with our first super chat today. Thank you so much. Saying, I watched the highlights yesterday. The offense didn't look terrible, but I do have a question. It seems like we get the most first and second, second and 20, third and 20 in the NFL. Is that true? Broncos definitely have some of the longest third down to go in the NFL, and they are definitely penalized a good clip and making that hard for your offense to convert. But I would imagine that the Broncos, while they do see a good rate of third and long, not every single offense that is a death sentence. But for the Broncos offense, with how much they have to move the yard small chunk by small chunk without the vertical passing game, without the explosive passing game right now, pretty much is a death sentence when it is first and beyond the sticks. So I don't know if they have the most, but they darn well are one of the worst teams at converting it.
And when you look at look at where they got their yards, people hate the idea of bend but don't break. The whole thing, it's almost become a bad word. But using a bend but don't break defense against the Denver Broncos is ideal. It's you don't trust the Broncos. As a defensive coordinator, I'm going to say, listen, I'm not going to let you get the big play. I'm going to let you run the ball from the 20 to my 40. Then we're going to tighten the ball. Then we're going to tighten it up. We're going to let you make a mistake. We're going to press coverage a little bit because I don't think your quarterback's going to beat us. And we're gonna tighten up the reins a little bit. So Kansas City's got the horses to do that, to play that way. And again, I've said this before. We've used the phrase Jekyll and Hyde. This team's up and down, but it's almost a perfectly linear equation of who are you playing against and what type of team are they. The teams that are strong in the lines of scrimmage, that are able to dominate the lines of scrimmage when it matters, are the teams that are just beating the hell out of the Broncos.
Yeah.
And Kansas City was able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like there hasn't been a lot of discussion about the Broncos defensive line coming out of this game, which is surprising. I guess it's not surprising because it's like the offense is the main show and the defense held Patrick Mahomes to essentially 13 points because the muff punt and the pick six. But like the defensive line for the Broncos was getting moved consistently. And they also, Patrick Mahomes was the third least pressured quarterback in the NFL this last week. I guess maybe it's fourth or fifth because of that Monday night game with absolutely no passes. It's hard to pressure the quarterback when there are no passes, but that's one. And thank you so much, Skylar, for your support. We appreciate you. Stick around. We got Greg Smith also. Good morning for Broncos for breakfast. Good morning to you. Peter's in the house. What an amazing D, but wonder why Purcell didn't play. Was he injured or dropped? Yeah, this is an interesting one. We didn't talk about that much. Did you have any thoughts about Mike Purcell being inactive in this game?
I just looked up the quotes because that was asked of Vic Fangio yesterday. And Peter, thanks for the stars as always. And good morning. Good afternoon. He said it was opponent based. He said they were going to be in a lot of nickel and didn't think that was necessarily the right matchup for them. they run the ball well enough that if they see that there's some, if you're in a specific defense and can't adjust to it, well, we'll go right up the middle on you. But it was, at least according to Fangio and what he said publicly, it was a coach's decision, not necessarily injury based. But you never know for sure. You really don't. I've harped a zillion times. The last place you're going to find out what's going on is what an executive says publicly, because they lie so much they call it coach speak. They don't even call it lying.
Yeah.
So if he had an injury, you're certainly going to say, well, he might have been nicked up, but coaches are pretty cagey about that stuff too. But he did say coach's decision. It was scheme based.
Yeah, Purcell is a classic 0-1 technique, and he's been not that good at that this season. Also, he's been struggling a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he is moved on from after this season is over. And the Broncos bring in, I mean, I guess a lot will depend on scheme. If they're still running this 3-4 base, then maybe you don't see that 0-1 technique type. But Purcell probably be moved on from. And I think it was definitely schematic, because you want the Chiefs to be forced into rushing the football based on personnel. And that's essentially what they did in this one. We got Juan coming in here saying, do you guys think the people in charge of the Broncos are pleased with the current situation? I mean, 18-26 is not a good look. What's your thoughts on where the Broncos stand? You got to go season by season on this one, and I think that's an important factor. And with George Paton here this year, he would probably be looking at the Broncos as, okay, I am in charge of building what this team was this season. Obviously, there's holdovers and whatnot, but they're 6-6 under Vic Fangio with up and down quarterback play and a lot of injuries on the offensive line and the linebacker core. This is probably right where you expected them to be this season. Maybe a little bit more high variance than you'd expect, losing as poorly like they did versus the Steelers and the Browns with Case Keenum, but then also winning games like the Chargers, who looked amazing, versus the Bengals and the Cowboys. So a lot of up and down. And Vic Fangio, I don't think he's back yet. I don't think he's gone yet either. You have 5 more games to determine what's going to make of him. And I guess we can get into that a little bit here as soon as, is it playoffs or bust for Fangio, or is it like a winning record or bust, or is there a little bit is there even more nuance?
Or a winning record might be playoffs. Those might not be mutually exclusive. I've said before, I was surprised that a new general manager brought in stayed with a coach with that record. Fangio, again, going back to don't believe what they say publicly. George Paton said, one of the reasons I came here was Vic Fangio. Yep. Sure it was. I don't buy that. I was surprised from the outside looking in, just holistically looking in. I was surprised that the Broncos kept a coach with a new general manager coming in that had the record that Fangio did. Yeah. So this was a 1-year trial period for Fangio to a certain extent, which again is why he was not in developmental mode. He had to win to save his job. So you can't go 7-10 and say, oh, but Drew Lock got better. He had to do what he thought was going to be the best chance of winning now, because he couldn't afford another losing season. No way. So are they happy where things stand right now? No way. I don't think so. Even despite the injuries, I think that they feel this. My guess is George Paton thinks this team should probably be about 8-4 instead of 6-6 right now.
Yeah. I don't know. The injuries make it a little bit hard, but a lot of teams are dealing with that. That Thursday night game, the timing of that one is so unfortunate, because that was like the one team where you cannot go up with bad linebackers, and they did. But everybody is trying to cash in on the next best crypto. But if you want a guaranteed way to double your money, all you need to do is use promo code MHH at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code MHH, and your first deposit is immediately doubled all the way up to $1,000. How's that for a quick turnaround on your investment? With the NFL playoff race heating up and college bowl season, the playoffs just around the corner, double your firepower at mybookie.ag to get action in on the most important games of this season.
Yeah, build your own props, create a multi-game parlays, and take part in a host of mybookie.ag cash prize contests. This is the best time of the year to both watch and bet on sports, because you've seen enough. You got a pretty good idea what's going to happen. So don't miss out. Double your first deposit by using promo code MHH, and keep your eyes peeled for more exclusive holiday promotions coming soon at mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Absolutely. Guys, also make sure you're following us on Twitter at HuddleUpPod and at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Scott and myself on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you're going up to HuddleUpPod.com to get your swag on, the hat, the gear, the coffee mug. everyone drink if you're joining us this morning. Whatever you're drinking, coffee, tea, water, hydrate. It's important. Also, make sure you're following us on Facebook at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you guys are on Apple, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. We have one coming in here from JCBYO on November 26th, answering the call of action where I've said, hey, if you guys are on iTunes, make sure to go out there and say that we sent you. And he said, Nick and Scott sent me. And he also says, or she says, keep up the quality conversations that y'all have on every pod. Thankful to have this awesome community. JCBYO, thank you very much. That's really supportive. We appreciate you. We have a few more, and I'm going to keep reading these as long as they keep coming in and new ones come in. So there's 3 more on the queue. Would be awesome to have 4, 5, 6. So you make sure you guys go to iTunes and leave us a rating and comments, and we'll get to you. It's like a free super chat. Also, if you guys are on YouTube, make sure you are subscribing, liking, and sharing, and go over to Scott's channel. Subscribe, like, and share there as well. Scott's pushing up on 1,000. We talked about that MyBookie AG, pushing up on that 1,000. And you know what number I like even more than 1,000? 50. DWI guys. Ethan coming in saying, playoffs? Reminds me of Jim Morris Sr. Hopefully I nailed that. I'm not. My wife is the comedian impression.
Pretty close. It's pretty close. I've told Nick, because I got about 20 years on Nick. And, I've worked with people coming up, and he's old enough to have been around a little bit now. But I said there's certain sports movies that the younger generation needs to watch because, Gen Xers like me are always talking about them, whether it's, Rocky or, Major League, Bull Durham, stuff like that. It's like things you got to watch. Well, that's one of those quotes that you need to know where that's from because you hear it all the time. Yep. So it's one of those generational moments that spans a lifetime. You're going to hear that one forever. And yes, Jim Morris Sr. playoffs.
I would put that one. It's definitely in my top 3 for coaches going off. There's Gundy saying, I'm a man. I'm 40. Come after me. That one's amazing. There's Herm Edwards. Like, we play to win the game. That's what I thought after the Broncos beat the Chargers. Oh, but Teddy only threw it, 14 times or whatever. Or last night with Mac Jones. Oh, he only threw it 3 times. You play to win the game. I don't care how it looks. You play to win.
Maybe my favorite comment was a Tampa Bay coach back in the 70s, I think, but it was too nuanced because I think Brian Kelly actually tried to pull it off and ended up getting in trouble for it when the reporter asked, about his team's execution, and he says, I'm in favor of it. Because Brian Kelly tried to use that one a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, that was brilliant, but a little too nuanced for today's Twitter age, I think, because I think he had to apologize for bringing that quote up from the 70s. I'm not a fan of Brian Kelly by any stretch of the imagination, but I would defend him on that one.
Yeah, Scott and I are going to do an LSU podcast and all of a sudden have a fake Southern Bayou accent there coming out. ALASU. I can't even do it. But we thank you so much, Ethan. We appreciate you. We got the Howler Bro Surf coming in saying, morning, fellas. Not directed at you, but can we stop Mac Jones' offensive rookie MVP talk now? It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop as long as the Patriots keep winning.
I will try. I will stay on it. I said, I'm going to get ugly. If he gets chosen over Jamar Chase, I'm going to make it ugly. I'm going to make it real ugly.
Well, you know what? There is a way out there where Jamar Chase doesn't get it because the Broncos. We have a matchup on the horizon with Patrick Surtain versus Jamar Chase. And if Surtain clamps him, maybe it might be a little bit hard for Chase losing that rookie-on-rookie battle. But we'll see. Chase has been incredible this year. Definitely worth that pick for the Bengals, despite all the talk about Penny Sewell versus Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase looks like a good pick. Dave Glassman's in the house with the stars, says, fire Vic, Pat, Tom, and Teddy. Oh, man, we have lost Dave. Dave, I think you're going to be riding the horse again after we beat the Lions and full-on belief heading into that game against the Bengals, which is definitely a must-win. But got to beat the Lions first. Peter Middleton saying,
going back to the Purcell talk, Peter came in with some stars.
New nose tackle then, draft. Draft is definitely possible. I'll be getting an article out here at some point. Dane Brugler of The Athletic, who's one of the better draft media folks out there, had his first mock draft of the season with the Broncos taking Jordan Davis at 17th overall, nose tackle from the Georgia Bulldogs, of course. Yep. 6'6", 360, an absolute mountain of a man. There are going to be some questions about his snap count ability. I think he plays maybe even less than 50% of Georgia's defensive snaps. So is that worth it to take a guy that doesn't play that many snaps? And on top of that being conditioning questions at thin Mile High Air. We'll see. The thing about Jordan Davis is that he is so big and that size translates no matter what. Like, there's no question he's going to be big out there and be able to take up multiple gaps. And when you're going to run as much too high safety looks as the Broncos like to do, having a guy who is that dominant in the run game where you don't have to allocate bodies to the box can be a huge schematic advantage on first and second down on those running plays. Is that worth a first-round pick, though? That's the rub in it. When he's not playing a lot of snaps, when you can find other bodies, maybe not as good as him, obviously, but when you can find other bodies to fill that role, is that worth a first-round pick allocation? That's going to be the rub.
All of the questions that Nick had going into the game about Jordan Davis showed themselves in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Is he going to be limited? Can you spread him out? Alabama targeted that idea by going hurry up and keeping him on the field and wearing him out. They're spreading it out. All of a sudden, you don't need a nose tackle as much. So if you can scheme somebody out of a game, how valuable is he? However, if you're in a 3-4, if you're going to run a 3-4 and you're in the 17 range, I'm real interested now, Nick, in the middle of the first.
Yeah.
We've talked about, I don't care if he was top 10. I'm coming back over to your side on that one, that I don't know that I take him in the top 10, but if you're starting talking teens, late teens, now I'm getting interested. Miguel, good morning. And there's been something a little strange with Facebook lately. Some of the stars aren't showing up on the Facebook stream. So call us out on this one. Call out on that one. Just say so. Even something as subtle as what Miguel says here is, for the Nick and Scott Coffee Fund, he's not necessarily saying, "Hey, I've given stars," but it's obvious he did. So thank you very much for that, because I can't see it. When you see me looking over here all the time, I'm looking for the stars coming in, and it didn't show up. And we had 3 or 4 of those last night. So if I happen to miss you on that, I apologize in advance. Not 100%. Our fault. So help us out on that, please. And thank you for the coffee fund. I've got 8 bags of coffee sitting in the underneath the sink that I used the 31% discount on it for Halloween. So I stocked up thanks to y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And just real quick back to the nose tackle talk. There is another nose tackle in this draft that I like a heck of a lot. It is a Yukon Husky, actually. So pretty rare to see them, but he is 6'4", 333 pounds. And a pretty darn good athlete. So a little bit smaller, but you might be able to get him day 2 in the draft. So Travis Jones for UConn. He accepted his Senior Bowl invite. So you're going to see him down in Mobile.
Good. I'll be there. I'll be there again.
Yep. Keep an eye out for him. Who could be a good coach to lure in Rodgers or Wilson? Gosh, this one may be a little bit obvious, but Kyle Shanahan, perhaps. I know that there's some maybe some Kyle Shanahan smoke there as far as interest. I know Dan Quinn is another one with Russell Wilson. And maybe Darrell Bevell is another one. And there was another coach for Rodgers who there was some linkage to. Maybe it's even the Packers offensive coordinator right now. But for me, though, I think right now I'm leaning towards the Broncos keeping Vic Fangio and hoping that the offensive personnel and the power of draft capital / cap space is the lure for Rodgers or Wilson. I mean, I don't know how much Seahawks football you've watched this year. It's obvious that Wilson's not healthy, but man, their offensive line and their defense is absolutely dreadful, just so bad. And I think I would still obviously take a shot on Wilson. He's really a polarizing player in Twitter right now for Broncos country. A lot of people don't.
What isn't
Wilson.
Though? I mean,
yeah,
come on.
True.
What isn't? That's not a very good barometer, dude.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
The things I see is, he hasn't been good. I'm like, last year he had like 40 touchdowns last year, and he had a career high in interceptions, but he wasn't bad last year. Jesus. I'm not ready to give up on a 32-year-old guy with his resume, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
He's, even if he slows down some,
top 10.
His slower version is still where Drew Brees was, like the best version of Drew Brees. The shorter quarterback needs to have his mobility. Drew Brees could run. Russell Wilson's an athlete. Drew Brees played till he was 42 years old and was still throwing for 4,000 yards. So Russell Wilson would be a great option to me. But again, it's the franchise and it's the system that we're talking about that would be the big draw. I don't necessarily think the coach, but if you're bringing a guy like that in, he's going to have a say in it. Hey, Russ, who would you feel comfortable with? Unfortunately, with player power as is, you go after Aaron Rodgers, he's going to help you pick a coach.
Yeah, no, you give them the power. That's part of the pitch. Eddie James saying, good morning from a Colts fan. Thank you so much, Eddie. I like the Colts. I grew up next to Bob Sanders, his future wife, and he was always super nice to see him around, and got to meet Dallas Clark and Peyton Manning and a bunch of those Colts when I was growing up because, right next door. Pretty awesome, the Iowa Colts connection. Also, one of my good friends, his cousin is Pat Angerer, who played for middle linebacker for the Colts. Yeah, what a good linebacker
Great name.
Good player for Bettendorf High School. Chris Hernandez coming in here saying, good morning.
Yeah, and thank you for the stars. This is one of the ones that I was talking about. I happen to see it shows up in the very teeny corner in the right, but it doesn't show up on my stream. It shows up in this stream, but not the Facebook stream. So something's a little strange. But Chris coming in with big stars this morning, and we appreciate it. Saying, good morning. Is Reese McMahon still has a job because there isn't a viable replacement? No. Special teams coaches aren't hard to replace.
Yeah.
This is a personal decision. The answer to that is no. He's got a job because he doesn't want to disrupt it midseason. Flat out, we'll do this at the end of the season, and I get that. There's not a ton of, unless there's a personality problem or a mutiny going on or something along like that. You don't typically see position coaches get the axe in the middle of the season. It's everything. All the business is done in the off season. And
if you do see somebody getting fired midseason, it's odds are that coach who's doing the firing sinking ship. The writing is on the wall. He is just pushing buttons, hoping that something works out. So you're probably not going to see it in midseason. And also, how different is the unit going to be firing midseason, right? Like this, probably the special teams is what it is right now, and you're going to still see the mix of execution. And part of as much of that is on the players on the field as it is McMahon. Now, is McMahon the main influence on who he's bringing in for his special teams, who are his guys? Then he is responsible for their play on the field, of course. But I don't think you're going to see it midseason. Hopefully we'll see something in the offseason, though, because, my God, they can't do it. They cannot do it. Jim Bean coming in saying, good morning. Good morning to you, Jim. Awesome to see. We got Brian D coming in here saying, I think the best the Broncos can do now is finish 9-8 and will be short of a wild card. So let's get into this real quick, Scott.
Path to the playoffs.
We're
30 minutes in. It's time to get to the title subject.
Absolutely. We obviously want to give the people in the chat to say hello first. But Brian D, thank you for the comment here. I agree with Brian. I think this is exactly how it's going to play out. The Broncos have 5 more games left. I see them going 3-2 down the stretch. So the Broncos cannot overlook the Lions, but me sitting in this chair here with my fat butt, I can sit here and say, oh yeah, beating the playoffs or beating the Lions for sure. But after that, Bengals, Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, I see 2-2. I think the Broncos are going to be able to win 2 of those games, and that would put them just outside of the playoffs. Unfortunately, because of the first tiebreaker will be the conference record, and the Broncos have lost way too many games against AFC opponents. It's great that we beat up on Dallas and Washington football team. It's always good to kick the teeth in the NFC East because they just get way too much hype every single season. I love that. But when it comes to playoff seeding, could be an issue because you're going to have a lower AFC record than most of your opponents because most of your wins, half your wins, have come up against the NFC East so far this season.
So before we just pencil in a win against the Detroit Lions, which again, they're 0-10-1. You should.
They won one. They won this weekend.
They did. I'm sorry. Yeah. 1-10-1.
Yep.
Have you looked at their recent scores? I mean, the last 4 weeks, and there is a bye week in there, I think. Actually, that's probably just a long week from Thanksgiving.
Yep.
A tie at Pittsburgh. Okay. Pittsburgh can play a little ball. They lost 13-10 to the Cleveland Browns. 13-10 at Cleveland. How'd Denver do there? Chicago Bears, not a very good team, but 16-14.
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings, they just beat 29-7. So the last 4 games, they're playing like a 500 team. So I looked at those scores. I was like, what's their plus minus on this? And it was still bad. It was like minus 113 because they had some blowouts early in the season. But it put them like 27th or 26th, their plus minus. There were 5 or 6 teams that were below them in their overall scores because they've been playing teams tight. Now, again, you can't overlook. We don't expect. Doesn't matter if we overlook the Broncos. I mean, the Lions. We don't expect them to because now the Broncos know they can't afford to lose this game. If they lose this game, done. Last week we said was a must-win game. No, it wasn't. This is a must-win game. If you lose this game to the Lions, it's over. This season is done. We're moving on to draft, and we're publicly writing articles about who the next head coaching candidates are.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we got Tony coming in here with the thumbs up, the coffee, and the hearts. Good to see you, Tony. The Broncos this season, what have they done very well? They've beaten up on bad teams. And the Lions, while they've been playing it close, I think are a relatively bad team. And also that the Lions are not a team where I think the Broncos have any concerns about Jared Goff and trying to play keep up. Like I've said, the Broncos this season, the games that they've lost, they've fallen behind early. First team to 10 points has won every game this season. Jared Goff doesn't impress me at all.
Here's what might concern me a little bit, Nick. They rushed for 229 yards against the Steelers, saying that, as Clee says, there's no Big Ben. Well, Big Ben's not stopping the run. So they rushed for 229 against the Steelers. They rushed for 168 against the Browns. Those are two teams that the Broncos couldn't run against. And let's face it, Broncos need to run the ball to win this game. So the defense is giving up. They gave up 145 rushing, 184 rushing, 68 rushing in a win over the Bears, and 100 rushing to the Vikings. So they can be run against. There's if as we said earlier in the pod, and I've said before, the teams that are bullying you in the line of scrimmage, you're not matching up well against. So this should be a pretty good match. I know it sounds ridiculous. They're 1-10, but they're playing decent ball right now. Yeah. So the matchup, think of them more as a 500 team. The matchup still favors the Broncos because I think if the Broncos load up to stop the run, they can. And Detroit's not having a lot of success stopping the run.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a good point here where it makes me question this a little bit. You mentioned Detroit running the ball very effectively. They have 3 premium investments on the offensive line for the Lions. They have Taylor Decker at left tackle, who's been very good for them, underrated out of Ohio State. They have Frank Ragnow, who might be one of the best centers in football, especially in the gap run game. And they have Penny Sewell, who is playing really good at right tackle. We talked about Jamar Chase earlier. Now we're over at Penny Sewell. So they've invested really heavily in the offensive line. Oh, and they also have TJ Hawkinson, who's one of the better young tight ends in football, who is a true, two-way tight end as far as a receiving threat and a good blocker. So Broncos are going to have to be able to stop the run and put the game on Jared Goff. However, I think that Vic Fangio is definitely up to that task. The question will be more so, can the Broncos get after the passer consistently on those 3rd and longs or even 3rd and 5? The Broncos this last week, I think they only rushed Patrick Mahomes, or they only pressured Patrick Mahomes 4 times, which is not good. And they just have not been consistent in that department all season. So if they can stop the run, which I think will be key number 1 for Fangio in this defense, then it'll put it on Jared Goff, who is, man, you guys get upset about Teddy throwing it short of the sticks. Don't watch any Lions games this year. My God, you'll pull your hair out. But Broncos should win. And also, I don't respect this Lions defense for anything. I don't think they're a good defensive side of the ball. Broncos should be able to run the football. I would expect Teddy to have a bounce back game, and people are like, oh, we overreacted to Teddy. No, Teddy sucked against the Chiefs. He can also be good against the Lions. It's a week-to-week league. But that's my expectation for the Lions. I'm going to pencil it in as a win still. If they lose to this Lions game, not only is the season over, you're talking about the whole regime of coaching staff being over. This is a must win. They cannot drop this one against the team.
It could happen right then. I mean, it could happen that week.
Yeah.
if you lose to the Lions, again, we've said, I don't think that this group, I think, gets the season no matter what, but it's going to be a very uncomfortable place to coach for the remaining 4 games if you lose to the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Joseph L coming and saying Mahomes had his lowest pass rate of his career. I'd say the plan worked. Yeah, the Broncos defensive plan definitely worked. No doubt about it. But still, there are critiques out there. I mean, the first half, the Chiefs had 2 drives, took up almost the entire play clock or that quarter, and had 10 points out of the gate. A lot of that is on the Broncos offense. Complimentary football, right? They gained 2 yards in the first quarter and 2 3-and-outs. That's not good enough. But the defensive line was getting displaced pretty often. The Chiefs had 3rd and 2, 3rd and 2nd and 3 pretty consistently in that first half of play, and the defensive line just was getting beat. I mean, they were just simply getting beat on that side of the ball. So it did work overall synergistically for the defense, but they did not create enough negative plays with the pass rush, which, can lead to turnovers, can lead to better field position, et cetera, and you end up losing. And that's definitely an unfair ask on the defense. I'm putting 85% of the blame on Teddy Bridgewater for that loss. But if the defense could have pass rushed a little bit better, maybe we're talking about a different game. Maybe you get a key turnover earlier in a short field. They have not been creating that explosive play. It was pretty late in the game. Was it a short field? I feel like it was on the Chiefs side.
I'm pretty sure that would have given the lead. Wasn't that if that fumble had come back?
You're talking the fumble. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like it wouldn't have been just a short field. It would have been a kickoff. And wouldn't that fumble that 6 points have given the Broncos the lead? I don't remember for sure.
I think it would have tied it.
Close, right? But it's a different game.
Yep.
So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, the Broncos defense was really, really good.
Especially
sure.
The back
and one,
seven.
I'm not sure if you're saying this tongue in cheek or not. So I like your guys' thought, but look, they lost to the Eagles. I know. Who could possibly lose to the Eagles? Man, you lose to the Eagles, you might as well just fold up the shop. The Eagles are in soccer terms, in international football terms, we call a player who beats up, scores a lot of goals, does a lot against bad teams. We call them flat track bullies. That's what the Eagles are this year. The Eagles have beat up on some bad teams or teams that couldn't handle them in the trenches. And if I'm not mistaken, what's the Eagles' record right now? They're knocking on the door of 500.
They're right at 500. I think they are 6-6.
Yeah,
they might actually be exactly 6-6.
The Eagles. Now, if there's a Jekyll and Hyde team out there, for me, it's the Eagles, because they've looked like world beaters a few times this year, and then other times you're like, how do they turn around and lose that one? So
yeah, no, they've definitely been a Jekyll and Hyde team. I mean, that's the Jalen Hurts experience, right? If the teams can work, beat the Eagles in the trenches, or at least stalemate them and make Jalen Hurts have to throw the football, it has not worked out as well for them. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, back to the playoffs here, talking about the Broncos here. I'll let Scott peruse the comments because I got some data I want to get into. Football Outsiders right now has the Broncos with a 17% chance of making the playoffs so far this with the rest of this season, which is not the worst in the world, but obviously not great either. So 17% chance with a 10% chance of winning the wild card, or excuse me, a 13% chance of getting a wild card spot and a 3% chance of winning the division. So not very good. And the Broncos right now, what do you think their mean wins are?
I want to talk about the 17% chance.
Okay.
Because I want to, and Shane, thanks for the stars on this. And I just got a laugh out of reading it. It says, good morning, Nick and Scott. Good morning. I have no expectations for this game. If any team can find a way to lose the Lions through bad game plans, stupid coaching decisions, it's this team. Again, it should be fairly simple, right? It should be fairly simple. Run the ball. The 17%, what's that? 6-1 odds. You find somebody that'll give you, I don't know that I'd want to put down $1 to win 6 right now on this Broncos team. Does 9-8 get it done? Again,
probably not.
Probably. What do you think? 75% chance of a win in this game, and then Cincinnati, you got to go 2-0 in those two to have a chance.
I think you can go 1-1, but then you have to win every single game. You have the ability to lose one more game, I think, and even then, it's not a guarantee. But you can one more game, you can lose, and if that's the Cincinnati game, good freaking luck. I think Joe Mixon is dealing with an injury right now. Joe Burrow has a pinky injury. The Broncos essentially have to win that Bengals game because you can't give yourself zero room for error with those last 3 games. But I would say if they did lose to the Bengals, not to fire everybody, not to fold up shop, because you still have 3 divisional games that could go a long way in determining which direction you go. And honestly, this is as crazy as it sounds with this Broncos game. The best game they could lose, and even though it would suck and be embarrassing, would be this Lions game. Because if you lose to an NFC opponent, that's not going to affect your tiebreakers.
You're thinking like a scientist instead of somebody. You're going to have to bring your heart into this one and take your brain out of it, because momentum is real. The team form, for lack of a better word, how they play is real. And if they lose this game, everybody's packing up shop. It's done. Done.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's not a computer program on here. We're not simulating this on Madden where the result doesn't matter. The result matters. And if they lose to the Lions, it's done. We're going to be going Broncos for draft breakfast in the mornings is what we're going to be doing. And free agency and all that type of stuff. So coaching search. So yes, I'm not one for hyperbole. I try and leave myself an out on these type of things, but lose this one and forget it. It's done.
Yeah. You're probably right. And we got the DWI guys coming back in, $15, saying, I rewatched the game and have to ask, where is Shelby Harris? Took his money to the bank and is still there. Shelby's been a disappointment this season. He's been solid, but he's not been much of an impact player. So the Broncos, luckily, they signed him to what I think it was like a 3-year deal where he's pretty easy to get out of his contract after next season. But he's definitely one that needs to feel a little bit of pressure right now because he has not been much of a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball in the run game or the pass game. And you want to do better there, especially if you're paying somebody. So he's fine, but I think he's been a bit of a disappointment as far as the return on investment so far this season.
And how big is his contract? Because he doesn't have that big of a cat number. I'm looking it up right now. Signed a 3-year, $27 million contract. Okay, that's solid. That's decent money. And then dead cap, like you said, it's $11 million next year, and then drops to $3 million in 2023. So basically, he's got one more year left on his deal with a club option.
Yep.
So you're gonna have to see the best out of him. But the other thought of that is, you give guys life-changing money. He doesn't have to work again if he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Now, how much of this I watched the game, but I'm not Dove Valley deep divers. Okay, I'm not rewatching this game over and over again and watching the all 22 and doing all this stuff. Is the lack of help from the edge hurting Shelby Harris?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Shelby was never an alpha on the defensive line, right? He was better when he played off somebody who was better than him next to him. And that's been an issue so far this season. The edge rushing for the Broncos has been below average. No doubt about it. Malik Reed, he has some good plays on 3rd and long where he can be a finesse edge rusher, but I mean, he cannot hold the edge for the life of him in run defense. And the other edge spot, I mean, you just don't have enough juice or dynamic play at that position with Von Miller gone and with Bradley Chubb slowly working his way back. So it's definitely an issue. Draymond Jones has been actually playing pretty well. He's probably been the Broncos' best player on the defensive line this season. And opposing offenses are doing that accordingly, or have noticed that, because he is definitely getting the highest rate of attention in double teams of anybody on that defensive line right now. But there's a reason that when people are talking about the Broncos this offseason, as soon as the conversation moves beyond quarterback, it goes to edge rusher. This team needs another guy. And I'm a big Jonathan Cooper fan. I think he's going to be fine. Maybe a little bit inconsistent week to week, but they need to bring in another juice of talent at the edge position, and this might be the draft to do it.
And there, Peter comes in with a. Sorry, I'm jumping on you in there because I was looking at a calculator because we said there'd be no math. But this is one I kind of see fairly often about Fant. Can Noah Fant follow? And Peter, thanks for the stars. He's on pace to have a career high in receptions by a decent amount. He had 62. I know there's an extra game in there, but he's on pace for 76 receptions, and his career high is 62. He's got 49 already through 11 games. Has Fant been that bad? I mean, what were your expectations? Is the expectations that he's supposed to take that big leap? Because the way the talk right now, and again, I didn't watch him last year. The way the talk right now is that he's regressed. He's fallen off the cliff. He's disappeared. He's on pace to really break through his. I mean, it's only 3 years, but he's going to have a career high in receptions. His yardage is going to be about the same because he's not getting downfield as much. But what were the expectations? Because I don't think he's regressed. He's, like I said, career high here.
Yeah, I think it is more so the feeling on his season as a whole. Fant has been giving a lot of layup plays this season where it's like, come on, buddy, you have one defensive back to make miss for a first down or for a 2-point conversion. And I honest to God, cannot think of a single time this season where he's made that play when he's been given the opportunity. Now, some of that is definitely on the scheme. Some of that is on the quarterback, blah, 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 for sure. But Fant has been given, while the numbers on the whole look solid, he just is not making any plays. And for a first-round pick of the tight end position with the athleticism that he has, he needs to make those plays in the open field. I mean, that's why you invest a first-round pick in that kind of player, and he hasn't done it this season.
I guess my question on this a little bit is, depending on what time of day it is when I'm involved with the Broncos, Bridgewater basically gets blamed for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Fant's getting the targets. He's getting the receptions. And some of the comments on here is like his effort seems to have regressed, this type of thing. So I think he's again, what were the expectations? The expectations is I want him to be able to break a tackle against a safety, with 2 yards to go to the sticks. And I get that, but he's getting the looks to, he's getting the ball headed his way. So, I appreciate the way that Peter asked that. Can he step up as opposed to the like I said, depending on the time of day, it's all Teddy's fault.
Yeah, this offseason, I may have to dust off my statistical software fingers with R, which is a free package online for statistical analysis, because there is a statistic called yards after catch over expected, which is kind of like completion percentage over expected, where they take passes that are to every single spot on the field and what you get divided by what the average is for every single target.
That's a good explosive player stat.
Yes, it really is.
What are they doing? Except the only thing I have a problem with that is what is expected. Expectations bring a bias. Expectations, you take one of those surveys, they're like, was your experience better than expected, worse than expected, as expected? And I always feel bad saying as expected because I went to a really nice place. I had high expectations. You got the middle grade. It was still 5 stars, but it was what I expected. So that stat I think can be really well, but I'd be tough. There's a measure of subjectivity in there that could skew it a little bit too.
Well, they take out the subjectiveness with the overexpected because it is the average of every single target that's gone to that specific spot of the field. So obviously there is some bias in it because if you have, better wide receivers or a better offensive line or a better quarterback that could manipulate the space and make it better for you to have yards over expected. Like if you had Calvin Anderson on one side of the field and Randy Moss on the other, and then you have, Noah Fant, he's probably going to have better yards after carry over expected because he's going to have more space, and you can't really account for that situation in the data. But overall, I think it's a really good stat, and I would expect Noah Fant to have one of the lowest yards after catch over expected in the NFL because he's having the opportunities. You talked about it. The raw stats are there, but he's not doing anything after the catch. And if this is again, coming back to the argument where like you're taking non-premium positions in the first round, they have to hit so much over. Right. Where like let's say Fant is a top 14 tight end right now. Okay, cool. That whatever. That would be fine for a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. Look at who he's around and where they were taken and what they're getting paid, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So it's just when you take a 1st round tight end, the floor for that pick has to be so much higher to be a hit. And if it was like a cornerback or an edge rusher, you'd say, let's say he's the 14th to 18th cornerback or edge rusher in the NFL or offensive tackle. Hell yes. He doesn't have to be the best ever, but because it's so hard to find those positions, that level of player is a much better hit and return on investment than the tight end when tight ends are typically found day 2, early day 3. So I would say that right now, I wouldn't say he's a bust by any means, but he's got to play better, and he's not been a good return on investment in comparison to where he was selected for his position. So long way to get there.
Yeah, no, Max coming in. No, I appreciate the question on that too. And I like the opportunity to come in and ask some of these questions myself and start getting a different take on some of the other things that we hear. And Max coming in, and I wanted to actually, Max, I'll come back to you real quick because Lewis says Teddy's playing for everything. What game are you watching? I said blamed for everything. So if it's not Fangio or Shermer getting blamed, it's Teddy. Like I said, depending on what time of day you were watching on this. I like to try and take a bigger view and see, going back to Shelby Harris, are there other factors that why Shelby Harris may have regressed? What are the expectations for Noah Fant? Because a lot of the talk is that he has regressed. I want to stimulate the conversation on this and see if there are extenuating circumstances here. And going back to Max Power says, not impressed with Dable or more. I haven't watched Dable as much. Doug Peterson, I think you could do a lot worse than Doug Peterson, but I know for a fact you could do worse than Kellen Moore. He's still got the number 1 offense in the league, and he's 32 years old, maybe. Yeah. Dude, when you're looking at coordinators, do not look at a small sample size. Well, I watched them on Thanksgiving and they didn't do very well. No. Look at the big picture. And right now, Dallas is sitting number 1. Now, listening back to what I just said, what are the extenuating circumstances? Is he number 1 because Dak Prescott is that good and they've got Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Ezekiel Smith? Maybe. Maybe. Should he be doing better than number one? Well, you can't do better than number one, but how about points per game? When I sort by that column, well, they're 2.
Yeah.
Dude, that's good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that is very good. And just to look at, I'm just curious right now. Talk back to Noah Fant here real quick. Football Outsiders has him as the 30th ranked tight end this season in DVOA. So he's just not lived up to it. But I would not give up on him just yet because he is an athlete. He is still extremely young, and you still have him underneath at least one more year of control. So don't give up on Fant just yet. Not impressed with Dabble or Moore, but Doug Peterson, I agree with you. Peterson would be a good get. I think Peterson is going to be one of the most sought after head coaches in the league this season, though. And is he going to be more interested in this Denver gig than other potential spots? That's the question. You have to sell Denver, and maybe Denver's a little bit of a hard sell, given that a new coach would be brought in before the new ownership situation is stabilized. And also, you're coming into the AFC West where you have to go up against Brandon Staley and Andy Reid with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty hard. The landscape here in the AFC West is pretty darn hard. So we'll see. And Kellen Moore 0-4 versus after the West. Didn't the Cowboys beat the Chargers?
I don't know. It's a team game. There's again extenuating circumstances. When I look at number one and think, okay, number one, number two in scoring offense, he's doing his job. He's doing a good job. And Lewis, all good. Sorry, I heard you wrong. No, that's fine. But there's 2 lines of thought. One, I see Teddy, like I said, Teddy getting blamed for everything. One was he quits, no heart, doesn't play. And 2 was he's got too much pride to pull himself out when he's hurt. Well, those two don't jive together. So either he's playing through injury and he's too prideful to pull himself out, or he's a quitter. Those aren't the same thing. That the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Has the effort on tackles been good? No, the effort on tackles has been better. Throw yourself at that dude's knees. Don't just try and bump into him. First thing, I couldn't have been alone on that interception. First thing I did was, where's Bridgewater? Okay, he's there. Oh, God. That's the best you can do? I'm like, okay, he's going to go in there. He's going to sacrifice life and limb to make this tackle. Nope. I'm going to try and shoulder tackle him out of bounds. Yeah, all you did was just accelerate him towards the end zone.
To be fair, he was getting blocked as well at the same time. So
I've said before, you don't come back from what he has come back from and not have heart.
Yeah.
His effort level on the interceptions has been dreadful. But, like I said, depending on the time of day, Teddy gets blamed for, the everything. And that's a little harsh. Truth is usually somewhere in between.
And that's the rub with quarterback, though, right? Get way too much of the credit when you win, get way too much of the blame when you lose. It's always a team effort, and it's always going to be that way. You want to have the guys around him. I mean, we're seeing it with Russell Wilson right now, or Aaron Rodgers in his career. Aaron Rodgers has only won one NFC Championship game, and he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. I mean, that's insanity, right? But it's the reality of the situation. Shane coming in saying, I like Doug Peterson. Second-time retreads tend to do well. Plus, he has a Super Bowl winning coach. His issue was really bad owner and GM situation in Philly. He's definitely a player's coach and great management of his coordinators. Does seem like Doug Peterson is a good coach and a good manager of personalities. I agree with that. The power dynamic in Philly was weird because you got Howie Roseman, who is very, very much a powerful figure in Philly and also, I think, closest with their owner. And also the Carson Wentz situation was pretty interesting as well. They were all in on Carson Wentz and they didn't want to have to move on from him at the same time. So they brought Nick Scangarini, I think that's how you say his last name, in first, and he couldn't get it done with Wentz, so they moved on. But I'd be interested in Peterson. The question is Peterson interested in Denver? And the other question is, and this is something that I've heard mentioned, and it's definitely going to get some eye rolls here in the chat, but I think that there is some validity to it, and I've heard it from multiple people who are not connected. Peyton, philosophy-wise, may be more interested in a defensive-minded head coach. I think he's looking for more of a problem solver and overarching viewpoint of somebody which tends to come more so from the defensive side of the ball versus the pinpoint focus of an offensive-minded head coach. But
the second time retread, that's such a negative word.
Yeah.
What I like to think of is that they learn from their mistakes and have gotten some experience and have gotten wiser and are doing better. Or they just weren't good enough. You don't know for sure, obviously.
Yeah.
But Peterson, has had some success,
Yeah.
and like I said, I think you could do a lot worse than that. And Dan Quinn, unfortunately, is going to be remembered for one of the lowest points in NFL history. That's not all on him. We can talk more about him again in the future as we start getting into this. And Billy Ray Valentine, as a true fans, we had to know Teddy was not the future. He's a stopgap at best. Yeah, we've said that the whole time. He's not. He was never the quarterback of the future. He was in to try for Vic Fangio to see maybe we can get a winning season and bridge, no pun intended, the gap until we get our franchise quarterback. Peyton saying maybe our franchise quarterback is on our roster. No. If y'all have learned anything from me on this, is don't listen to what they say publicly. The franchise quarterback is not on this roster. At least that is the feeling. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And all of the actions say that you've got to be in the market for a quarterback this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You got to be very aggressive with the Wilson Mahomes tier, and I'd be really curious also to see what happens with Kyle Shanahan. And if he came to Denver, man, he'd have 3 quarterbacks on the market that would be connected to him with Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Matt Ryan. So that might change the formula as well, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Safe, middle of the road guy. Talking about Teddy.
And there's one other factor in there you're leaving out. Nick,
what was that?
Cheap.
Yeah. And it's not just
he wasn't
cheap.
just safe, middle of the road and average. He was cheap.
Yep.
And low risk because you're only tied to him for 1 year.
Short term.
So that's remember the phrase I've used before. You get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't pay for much, and it was a very low risk option because you're free next year.
Yep.
You've got all the options in the world next year. So the one thing that I think a lot of people might complain about is what was the cost? Was the opportunity cost for you accountants out there? Did it cost you what Drew Lock may have become? Maybe. But the reason Teddy Bridgewater was being brought in is because this administration didn't believe in Drew Lock.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. And I don't know if you saw this yet. Pro Football Focus had one of their first off-season articles come out this yesterday. Yeah, December 6th. And they projected Teddy Bridgewater to have one of the top 75 contracts in free agency this year. What do you think Pro Football Focus is projecting Teddy Bridgewater's contract to be this offseason?
I don't know what it's projected to be, but it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 years, $24 million, and most of that is front loaded, and it's a 1-year option.
This is what they have: 2 years, $40 million, $20 million average per year, with $27.5 million guaranteed for Teddy Bridgewater.
No.
Yep. So I agree with you there. That's what they're projecting with the increase going up there. That's a lot of money, and unfortunately, that probably pushes you next season, where if you don't get an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson, Teddy moves on in that situation. And maybe we're talking about a similar, you're just pushing it over, but at least you're not committing long-term to the wrong guy. But maybe somebody like a Tyrod Taylor or a Marcus Mariota, where you can have similar offensive tenets as far as defensive first, protecting the football, maybe a little bit more of rushing ability from your quarterback position, and a short-term contract. Because even if those guys are not long-term, you're not doing the Carolina Panthers, where you are paying multiple quarterbacks who are not the answer, giving up future assets and paying them for multiple seasons. I mean, if you're going to do it, if you're not going to have the guy, the way the Broncos are doing it right now is exactly how to not have the guy.
Yeah. Charlotte and Charity both start with CH. So that's they're the charity franchise. We're going to pay a bunch of people to go play somewhere else. That's, and I don't know how Joe Brady, the Joe Brady thing still just boggles me. It's like, what exactly is his big star? What turned him into this, Sean McVay, besides his age, and having Joe Brady at LSU, where you can out talent 11 of the 12 teams you're going to face? I don't get it. And I think based on, we're getting back to what we said earlier, when you're let go in the middle of the season, there's some personality conflicts. Some of that had to go to his head. He's too young and didn't have enough of an experience to prove that he belonged where he was. That I have a feeling some of that went to his head, and he's gone mid-season.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. You're 100% correct there. Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now. Projected for Bridgewater, 2-year, $40 million, which is
no way. I'll take the under. So if mybookie.ag if you want to start putting bets on that, I'm all in. I'm all in. We'll start writing house notes. I know the league is ridiculous with quarterback funds. I know it, but still, come on. You're not going to watch Teddy Bridgewater play quarterback this year and say, "Oh yeah, I want to put 10% of my cap into this guy." No way.
Yeah,
No way.
I agree with you. And unfortunately, that puts you in the Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor camp this offseason. But again, it's better than paying long-term for somebody who's not the guy. We got Naj coming in, somebody who is the guy. Thank you so much. 1999, always so consistent supporting us here. We appreciate you, especially the holiday season. Hey, brothers, Broncos have never drafted a franchise quarterback. I think Wilson is our best bet considering the rumors are tying Rodgers to Pittsburgh. Who do you see as the offensive coordinator if Fangio is retained? Honestly, I'm not even going to guess right now as far as the offensive coordinator because I don't know what the dynamics are going to be. Like maybe it's part of the deal. Like Fangio, if you're coming back, that's fine. We'll have you back 1 year, but Peyton's picking the offensive coordinator, or they're going to let Fangio go down with this ship and give him a real playoffs or bust mandate with his guys. And if not, then you're all gone. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's something where you bring in Darrell Bevel or somebody like that who has not been great in Jacksonville, but he does have the Russell Wilson connection to bring him in, and it's not what you know, it's who you know, especially if you have somebody like Russell Wilson. Just ask Adam Gase and all the money he made off of Peyton Manning. But I think that a lot of people writing off Shermer being back are a little bit early to do that. I think there's a good chance that he's back.
No.
I think there is. I really do.
Okay, good to me means 60 to 75% or better. So if you want to lay 2 to 1 odds,
coin flip.
If you want to lay 2 to 1 odds, we can start our own MyBookie on that one. I'll take some of that action too. But I don't think there's a good chance Fangio's back. I think that's less than 50%.
You think it's less than 50? I would put it at about 50-50 right now.
No, I think it's less than 50. Again, it's this team's got to make the playoffs, and it looks like 4-1 to get in, 3-2 maybe. Does 9-8 keep Fangio here and you miss the playoffs? No. Take the temperature. Again, here you want to speak. That's how you speak. Okay? That's what speaks. Jetty comes in for, if you're listening after the fact, sorry. If you've got the audio version, Jetty Splash says 11,000 empty seats at Mile High. Yes, that's what speaks volumes to general managers. You're not going to go to another season if you miss playoffs like this, where you're 9-8 of mediocrity without doing something to get the fans back involved. To bring back, what's that word I use all the time? Hope. To bring back hope to the fans, to show and I'm not just saying doing something for the sake of doing something. I'm talking about getting rid of a coach that's got about a 400 winning percentage.
Yeah. It's just in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you're sunk. And when you have a bottom 3 quarterback, you're definitely sunk. And that's what Fangio had his first 2 years in Denver. And this season, they're playing about 500 ball with an average quarterback. So we'll see. We got 5 games left too. That's the other thing too. People are, asking, for definitive statements when we don't have the complete sample size yet. How they look over these next 5 games. I mean, they obviously know that they have to win.
I'll make
games.
A definitive statement. If someone gives $27.5 million to Teddy Bridgewater guaranteed, they're out of their minds. That's my definitive statement.
I appreciate that one. And you know what I really appreciate? God bless DWI guys. Ethan coming in $100. God, amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's
third time coming in today. So again, we certainly appreciate you. This is a great show, gents. Keep playing Pookie, maybe Wildcat. Just kidding, because it's starting to make, that's not a bad idea either. You want to do some short yardage situations. Teddy Bridgewater is not the one that's going to be ducking his head in there. I think Collinsworth said, they've been pretty good on the sneak with Bridgewater. Did I hear that? I don't remember seeing a QB sneak this year behind Cushenberry.
I remember one.
But it's certainly not a trend. Like, oh yeah, we're just going to put our head in here and do that. I've said before that I think that, Teddy is playing a little timid right now, physically. And I don't know what he's going through or how he gets up in the morning. He can hardly walk for all I know. But he's playing like he's hurting. He's playing the game like he hurts.
Yep.
DWI guys, this is the kind of boss I'd want to have behind me is Ethan over in England. So enjoy some Champions League. Happy Champions League Day. One of the best sporting events on earth, and you're right there in the middle of it over in England.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good Good call there. Thank you so much, Ethan. I want to get to this one here from Kelly Madison here real quick. Oh, we
sorry.
got
I wanted
Ivan
to
coming.
jump you before it disappeared because this is another one from Yvonne that is not showing up. So tell me it's just me, Facebook fam. Do you see Yvonne's comment in the stream? Because I don't. It shows up in a teeny little corner as stars, but it's not showing up in the stream. But I see it here. So I don't. Let me know if you're seeing his comment when you're following along in the chat. But Yvonne says, I think Fangio is 50-50 to be back. He has the excuse of the QB and the injuries. No. He doesn't have the excuse of the QB because this was somebody that they went out and got. This was they went out and got somebody. The excuse for the QB would have been if they didn't go get Bridgewater and played Drew Lock and fell on their faces. That would have been the quarterback excuse. So I'm not buying that one. Injuries, yes. There's been a ton of injuries. The linebackers have been crazy with the injuries, but now all of a sudden your defense is playing where it should. So I think Fangio has a job immediately next year under someone else if he's let go as a defensive coordinator. But I don't think it's 50-50. And it doesn't matter what I think, but I think it's like 25% that he's back next year.
Yeah. We got 5 games to find out. I think that's the biggest thing here. We're going to find out. I want to get this one to Kelly real quick because it is a team building question, and these are my absolute favorite. They get me going for sure. What if Bridgewater gets hurt and Drew steps in and does good? Will Denver still pursue a quarterback in free agency, or do you think they'll go for one in the draft? I think regardless of what Drew does down the stretch here, they're going to be in the quarterback market. So if Teddy doesn't play another game the rest of the season, unless Drew Lock comes out and puts up like the best quarterback performance every single week, there's not enough consistency in his sample size where you're going to be in on him next year. Now, does that mean that maybe you are more comfortable once again giving him a shot like you did this offseason and competing with Teddy Bridgewater? Sure. Yeah, I could. If he kills it down the stretch here and Teddy doesn't play, then yes, because you still have him under another year of control. And what would it hurt to have Drew Lock versus Tyrod Taylor versus a rookie that we didn't already have this season? Like that's not ideal, but there's no way in heck that Drew Lock can do enough here from this point forward for me. And I'll speak for them too, for the Broncos front office, from what I've heard, where he would be safe and the guy if he played well down the stretch of the season. There's too much bad play, and it's not about the highs for Drew Lock, it's the lows.
Well, and on this one, because Kelly kind of asked the question with the assumption that they're going for a quarterback, period. Because it says, do you think they still pursue one in free agency, or do you think they will go for one in the draft? My answer to that is you kind of answered it, is no matter what happens, I think you're trying to upgrade the quarterback room in the offseason. Can you do that in the draft? See, that's the problem right now. Can you do it in free agency? There's not a ton of great options out there. That doesn't mean you go and give Teddy Bridgewater a contract extension of $27.5 million guaranteed. But again, like I said, 2 for $20, where the back end, you might end up giving 15 in the first year, and you have a $5 million dead cap in the second year, which is essentially a 1-year option. You can waive him. That's possible while you try and get your quarterback of the future in there somehow, some way. But if Bridgewater gets hurt and Drew steps in and does good, then yeah, he'll still get another shot, but it's gonna have to come under another coaching staff. It's gonna have to.
Yep. And before we get on out of here, this one from Jetty made me laugh. I love you guys, but it's humiliating sometimes how much I don't know compared to the kids in high school who always knew the stats about the sports stars. Definitely one of the kids in high school that knew the stats about the sports stars. And yeah, that was me. I'm still playing ball, but also knowing all the data as well, because that's a competitive advantage, right? The more I know, the better spot I'm going to be to compete. And you want to take that every time.
I was an athlete that was really, really, really good in math.
Yep.
If I had been a better athlete, I would have been Billy Bean. So Moneyball absolutely speaks to me.
Yep.
Yeah, we're both one of those guys, and that's why we're here. And I kind of say, it beats working for a living.
Yeah, God, that's for sure. And also coming in here, Jelly, most pro ready quarterback prospect in this draft. It's probably Kenny Pickett. He is the oldest quarterback in this class. He's run a pro style system many years up until this season. And he has the most probably consistent NFL throws on tape of any of the quarterbacks on here. My issues with Kenny Pickett are threefold. One, he has probably this, when the combine rolls around, he will measure as one of the smallest hands ever for a quarterback that's ever gone through the NFL combine. How much does that matter? I mean, you can ask teams. People made a big deal about it with Drew Lock, and we've seen what Drew Lock looks like in the elements. Drew Lock had a 9 3/4 inch hand size. I think Kenny Pickett is excuse me. Maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, Kenny Pickett is like a 3/4 inch less than Drew Lock, whose Drew Lock's hands are like in the 9th percentile. Very small. Very, very, very small hands. Another gloved quarterback because his hands are so small. He's older too. I think he's going to be 23 as a rookie, which is old for a first-year NFL player. How much does that matter? It matters some. Obviously, what Mac Jones is doing right now is 2.5 years older than Trey Lance. Needs to be taken in context to see what these guys look like over the next few seasons. And the last one is Kenny Pickett this is his 4th year playing at Pitt, 3rd or 4th year. And this is his first year really being good. So
let's see, that doesn't bother me as much. You say the same thing about Mac Jones. He
didn't have a chance. Kenny Pickett played, and he was not good.
But sometimes the light goes on. But I get it. But I agree with your answer on this. Is who's the most pro-ready guy? I want to take a deeper look at Sam Howell because I've liked what I've seen so far. So why isn't he getting more discussion? And I'll check that out and have an answer. This is why, or he should be. And but I haven't gone that deep into these quarterbacks just yet. Just kind of on the high end. I've seen enough of Bryce Young to go, yeah, I want that guy.
Yeah, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are awesome. Also, fact checking myself, Kenny Pickett is actually 23 years old already. He is older than Mac Jones. He will be a 24-year-old before the next year even starts, which is pretty old for a prospect. But at least he's not playing cornerback position, running back position, etc. It's not as big of a deal for a quarterback, but it's another factor where it's like, man, how many ticks in the cons box can we have for you?
And Bronco Jedi coming and saying it's not really a factor when you're worried about their age when they play into the late 30s. So for me, this is more along the lines of, is he good enough that where you start talking about the development? Is there still development in there, or is just as good as you're going to get? If you like him where he is, then that's not a problem. If you think, okay, he's going to develop further, then it does become a problem. Again, I was actually watching Moneyball this morning, and they're going through names. They name off a guy. He's like 26 years old, AA. No. Yeah. And that's kind of what you're thinking of here is, is he tapped out? Is this as good as he's going to get? He's farther ahead of everybody else, maybe, but everybody else is going to pass him because of the age. But no, it's not about how long you can play. The same reason why you go after Russell Wilson, even though he's 32, you got 7 more years on him. That's fine. It's just how good is he going to get? If you think he's already good enough, then it's not a factor at all.
Yeah.
If you think that he needs some time to develop, then it becomes a factor because there's not a ton of development left in a guy who's coming in at 24, 25 years old.
Yeah, nope, absolutely correct. And there's been studies done that show that quarterbacks take 3 jumps historically, age 19, 20, age 21, 22. And like when they first get started in college, their last year started in college, and then like after their rookie year in the NFL. And Kenny Pickett, age-wise, is already there. I mean, he is 3 years older than Trey Lance, who will already have a year in the league. And that matters because of those growth steps. And also, he's played a lot of games. So typically you see guys get better with an aggregate amount of games. That was one of the arguments against Drew Lock. Oh man, he already had 50 starts in SEC. Well, he's already had 50 starts, and this is where he's at. It's not like he's played this in 12 games and he's going to get that much better in the NFL. So all these things make me a little bit skeptical of Kenny Pickett. And I agree with you. Sam Howell does intrigue me. So do a lot of these quarterbacks, but I'm curious to see how the board falls. Honestly, I would be interested in if you can get Carson Strong day 2 because of the knee, because enough other teams are out on him. That's kind of the investment where it's like, okay, that's a first-round arm, and a lot of the tape is good. Somebody's not going to take him because of the knee, but you already have such a low chance of hitting on a quarterback day 2 that if that's the reason he falls there, it might be worth taking a swing just to get that guy day 2. Because if you miss, so be it. You have all that extra day 2 capital, not the worst in the world. So, all right, guys. Well, we're definitely over our time limit today. I remember when Scott and I first went to 3 shows a week, we're like, yeah, we can do 3 45-minute shows instead of an hour-long show. You said, yeah, we'll see, Nick. You hot air son of a gun. No, yeah, that's we're here at an hour and 15 minutes, but the super chats kept coming in and we had a lot of good conversations too. Sometimes I come into these and it's like, yeah, what can we talk about today? I guess Broncos playoff chat, but you guys, the community, always dictate that. So we appreciate you. You guys can follow Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy and I am at Nick Kendell MHH, as you can see on your screen there. Make sure also on Twitter you're following us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you are still looking for some Christmas presents for your favorite Bronco fans, both here abroad, kids, significant others, go to huddleuppod.com to get your swag on. Heck, get yourself a Christmas gift over there at huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a coffee mug. Join us in the mornings with that Broncos for Breakfast coffee mug. It's beautiful. Love it. I got the smaller one. Maybe I should have gotten the bigger one. Honestly, we have these shows so much that it might be worth it for me to invest in a second one so I can just rotate them. Yeah, exactly. Bring in the closer, just bring in the big one. But you guys can also make sure that you are following us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. We'll be coming at you again live tomorrow on Scott's channel. But on Thursday, again, I'm going to be reading out some of the Apple Podcast reviews. So make sure you guys are giving out your 5-star review and comments, and we will get you read on here. And we really appreciate those ones that have been coming in and you guys who have been answering the call to action there. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like and share to Mile High Huddle. Hit that notification, the bell notification, so you know when we go live. And do the same for Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Any other comments you want to get to before our way out? Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You guys are a lot of fun and great conversation.
Yeah, no, this was a good. I think it's kind of fun when there's so much content on this channel. We get the gut reaction where everybody's either sky high or pissed off. Then the day after in the aftermath, there's 2 shows on Monday, so emotions are riding high. And now we can put that behind us. It's kind of like our own team here. It's time to look forward. We celebrated. We cried in our beer or coffee or whatever, and now it's time to look forward. And I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to this game against the Lions.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Hopefully the Broncos can be healthy and go out there and get a win and get back to above 500, and then 4 games left with a chance to make the playoffs. I mean, this team is exactly who we thought they would be. Maybe a little more high variance week to week, but with Teddy Bridgewater on the defense, with a chance to make the playoffs with the last 4 games of the season, this was realistic expectations. And I'm really curious to see at some point, maybe after the season is over, we go back and look at our preseason projections, because I think we're going to be pretty close.
I'm afraid I had 11-6.
I maybe had 10 wins. I maybe had 9 wins.
I wrote off the Raiders. I wrote off the Raiders probably as 2 wins, and that could end up being the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely picked the Broncos to beat the Steelers. I still don't respect this Steelers roster. I don't think they're very good. And I definitely picked them to beat the Raiders the first time in Denver. That one still stings. But we'll see. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Scott's channel. It's still on the screen there, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. And the rest of you guys, I'll see you tonight for Building the Broncos with Carl. So until then, you guys stay safe. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you next time. Go Broncos.